Hi, I'm Sam Edmonds and I'm a consultant for Fox Rage and Salmo. One of my favourite places to target pike are on gravel pits, and today we're going to be fishing with a variety of different types of lures to see whether we can catch pike out of the gravel pit behind me. Now we've got a huge amount of water to cover. I mean, there's about 130 acres of water that we can fish today. It's full of islands, bars, deep channels, deep bays, shallow bays, reeds. It's a fantastic looking gravel pit. So we're in the middle of spring at the moment, and today I'm going to be showing you some of the tactics that I would use to target pike in the spring months. So I'd be using lures such as jerk baits like this slider I'm starting with today, swim baits, crankbaits and other lures within the Fox Rage and Salmo ranges. So we're going to give it a go and hopefully we'll have a couple of fish to show you. We've fished a few swims already today, but we've just come into this shallow bay here, and I've got a slider on at the moment in the 10 centimetre size, and I'm just gently twitching it so it's fishing almost like a subsurface walk the dog motion, and I'm just going to cover all of this bay and see if there are any pike here. The gravel pit that we're fishing today, it's full of channels, bars, shallow bays, deep areas as well, and we're going to cover as much of it as we can, and we're going to be using a variety of different Salmo and Rage lures. The great thing about this lake is that you can fish all different types of lures. I mean, there are days where you can catch fish on poppers, there are days where you can catch fish jigging, you know, using creature baits, jerk baits, crank baits. The main thing really is to chop and change lures until you find one that catches a fish or catches a couple of fish, and then just kind of take it from there really. If you feel like you need to change lure, then change. If not, just stick with what you're doing, and hopefully if there's a fish in front of you, it should take the lure that you're using. Well, we've just changed swims and I've also just changed lure too. So I had the 10 centimetre slider on, but I've just put a 12 centimetre version on. The reason I've put the 12 centimetre version on is because there's a bit of a breeze coming down this channel here. So the 12 centimetre version is going to enable me to cast further up that channel where it's quite deep and help me reach areas where I probably wouldn't be able to reach if I had the 10 centimetre model on. So the way I'm going to cover this area here is just by breaking it up into different sections. So if you imagine all the water in front of you is like a big clock face, and then you know you've got like 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock and all the numbers in between. I'm just going to cast to all of those different numbers and make sure I cover all of the water in front of me so I don't miss any areas where there might be some pike. Slam that slider. Ugh. They often do. First fish of the day. Well, I just made a cast out to that island there, and literally 2 or 3 twitches after I'd started retrieving, bang, just absolutely slammed it. Let's get him out and have a look at it. Well, it's not a monster, but it's definitely a nice start to the day. That was caught on the 10 centimetre slider and reel roach. It's one of my favourite jerk baits. It has a fantastic motion as you're twitching it back. It's got a fantastic side to side sort of walk the dog motion. And I mean, I've caught some really nice fish on it, you know, fish over 20 pounds. So I mean, this is not as big as one of those, but as I say, it's a nice start to the day and hopefully the first of a few more. So I've just put back the first fish of the day, and now I'm about to check the hooks on my slider. It's always really important to check your hooks, especially after you've caught a fish or if you've bumped on one of the many bars that you can find in this gravel pit. So you want to make sure they're sharp, because if they're not sharp, you're not going to hook the fish. The way I sharpen the hooks is by gently running the file down either side of the point of the hook, and I just gently dig it into my nail just to check that it's sticky sharp, and when it's sticky sharp you know it's ready to fish again. I'm going to run through with you the gear that I've been using today. So I've mainly been casting lures within the 4 to 6 inch range, lures up to about 90 grams in weight. So I've chosen this Terminator Swim Bait Special. It's 7'6", so it's got a nice bit of length to it, and it can cast lures up to about 100 grams, so it's perfect for the size of the lures that I've been using today. It's nice having a little bit of extra length on the rod as well, so if you hook a fish at long range, for example, you've got that extra bit of leverage to set the hooks and get the fish in. So this is the rod I've opted for today. I've got an oversized bait caster on here that's spooled up with 75-pound braid. Now the reason that I've spooled this up with such heavy braid is to prevent the lures from cracking off. When you're casting some of these heavier lures, you're putting so much strain on the braid and the knot especially, that it really helps having a high breaking strain. So I've chosen 75-pound. Tied to the end of the braid is a 7-strand titanium leader of 34 kilos. That's equivalent to around 70 pound. And then I've got a sure fit snap on there that I can attach the lure and change lures nice and easily. It's a nice setup to fish with because it's not too heavy so that you can't feel the lures that you're fishing with, and it's not too light so that you can't actually cast the lures that you're fishing with. It's also nice having an oversized bait caster on here as well. I prefer the shape of these because the round style bait casters, they don't fit quite as snug in the hand, and it's just a nice all-round setup really, very versatile and ideal for fishing lots of different types of lures. Well, we've just covered around half of the water that we planned to cover today, and it's been quite tough. We've just had the one pike and that's been it, and another follow. We've just reached this really shallow bay, but this can be a very good place for pike. I've caught some nice fish here in the past, and I've decided to change to this shallow replicant, something a little bit different. I've been using the sliders and other jerk baits for most of the day, but I'm going to try this now, which has got a slightly different action. So I'm going to cast it out and just wind it back very slowly and let the paddle tail do the work. At this time of year, it's a good idea to experiment with different retrieve rates with the lures that you're using. Some days the pike will like a really slow retrieve because the water temperatures aren't that warm yet, but on other days they like it fished really fast. So it's a good idea to chop and change whilst you're fishing, because sometimes a faster retrieve might work better, a slower retrieve might work better, and you've got to find out what's working best. I've had a few casts in this bay with the shallow replicant, but I haven't had any bites or follows. So I've just changed to the sweeper. This is the 14cm sweeper, so it's the biggest size available. And this is a lot more aerodynamic, so it's going to enable me to cast further. The great thing about jerk baits is that they cast a mile, and with this sweeper I'm going to be able to make really long casts and reach areas where other anglers might not be able to reach. So I'm covering a lot more water and hopefully covering some more fish too. And also it sinks really slowly as well, so it will enable me to keep the lure quite high in the water column, not too far down, and I'm just going to gently twitch it back and fish it on a sort of walk the dog style motion. So what happened was that I'd just changed to the 14cm sweeper. Here we go. And a couple of casts in, I'd had a take But what I've done is I've just changed to the 16 centimetre Pro Grub. Cast back to the same area and bang. It's not a big one, but it just shows that if you do get a take somewhere and you don't hook up with a fish, then if you change lure and cast back to the same area, you can often get that same fish to come back and take it again. So I've tried 3 different lures in this swim here. I started off with the shallow replicant, didn't have any bites on that. Then I changed to the sweeper, and a couple of casts in I had a take, and then 2 casts in using the Pro Grub I managed to catch this pike, the bite that I had when I was fishing with the sweeper. So it just goes to show that chopping and changing lures in swims where you've had bites can often help you catch 1 or 2 more fish. Well, we've just released the last fish I caught, and I've cast back out, had 2 or 3 reel turns and caught another one. We've covered a massive amount of water today and not had many bites, and we've just had a couple of fish from this one bay, and that's how we thought it was going to be today. So it just goes to show that often where you find one pike, you can often find others too. Well, we've tried a variety of different types of lures today. We've tried jerk baits, we've tried swim baits, and now I've just changed to this grub, and it seems to have done the business because I've caught 2 fish in 2 casts. So it goes to show that on days that are tough going, you've just got to keep chopping and changing, try lures with different actions, different retrieves, and it can make all the difference. It can change a bad day into a really good day. So I think the plan is now to put this fish back, and then I'm going to stick with this grub for the minute, because two fish in 2 casts is not bad going. So yeah, let's see what happens. I was pretty confident I was going to get a bite here. So the sweeper's got a fantastic zigzag motion as you retrieve it back, and as I paused it, this fish just slammed it. Ugh. Well, this is definitely the best fish of the day so far. It took a sweeper at really long range, and we've now caught on 3 lures today. We've had to chop and change quite a bit to actually get the bites and the fish that we've caught, but it's paid off in the end, and we've had 4 nice fish. I'm going to talk to you about a few of the different types of lures that we've been using today. So we've caught a few fish, but it hasn't been quite as straightforward as I thought it was going to be today actually. I thought the fishing would be a little bit easier, but we've had to work quite hard for the fish that we've caught. And I've got the lures that we've caught on today laid out in front of me, and I'm just going to show you what we've caught on and how I've been fishing them really. So the lure that I started off on this morning was a Salmo slider. This is the 10 centimetre model, and the model that I've been using mostly today. It's a fantastic jerkbait. It's one of my favourites for pike, and you can fish it slow, you can fish it fast. What I like to do is cast out. The great thing about the slider is that it casts such a long way, even into really strong winds. The slider sinks roughly at about 1 foot per second, so I count it down to the depths that I want to get down to. I haven't had to count it down too deep today because this is a very shallow gravel pit, and I just twitch and pause, and make sure that I'm giving the lure plenty of pauses so that it's got that fantastic zigzag motion as I'm retrieving it back through the water. And that's what caught me my first fish today. I stuck with the slider for quite a long time because I was really confident that I was going to catch some more fish on it, but it just didn't seem to happen. So I moved on to a jerk bait with a slightly different action to it. So I put the sweeper on, It's a little bit more streamlined than the slider. It's also got these like gliding vanes down the side of it as well, and it gives it a massive sweeping style motion, which obviously it's named after. So I stuck with the sweeper for a little bit, and I had a bite on the sweeper. I had a couple more casts, didn't have a bite, so I changed to the Pro Grub, and then 2 casts in I managed to catch my second fish of the day, and then I cast back out, and then straight after I caught another fish. So the Pro Grub has been the lure of the day. It's caught us the most fish. The Pro Grub's got a completely different action to the slider and the sweeper and a lot of other different types of lures. With this massive curl tail, it displaces a lot of water, and it's got a really fantastic action as the curl tail spirals back as you retrieve it. I like to fish the Pro Grub on a pretty steady retrieve, so I was just keeping the rod tip up, so I was keeping it away from the bottom so I didn't catch up on any weed, and just giving it a slow steady retrieve really, and it's got that fantastic motion as you wind it back through the water. We then moved into a bay where I wanted to get a much better range casting into the wind, so I put the sweeper back on, and I managed to catch the biggest fish of the day on the sweeper. The other lures that I've tried today, they haven't caught me anything, but they've looked fantastic, have been the shallow replicants. So instead of having the weight built inside the replicant's body, like the normal replicants or the replicant wobbles, the weight is situated underneath the bait here, and you've got 2 trebles underneath as well. This is a much lighter weight than the one that's inserted in the replicant wobbles, and it allows you to fish with it in much shallower water. I've been keeping the rod tip up similarly to how I've been fishing the Pro Grub, and just been winding it back on a slow steady retrieve, and again it's got a completely different profile and movement to the other lures that I've been using today. It's got a big paddle tail at the back that creates lots of movement and vibration, and on its day it can be a fantastic lure. I mean, we haven't caught any fish on it today, but you could come back here tomorrow and you could catch all your fish on this. So it's another fantastic lure to try whilst you're exploring big gravel pits like this one.